Welcome to Women World TV. My name is Tracey Middleton, and I am here with a distinguished guest today named Anita Bains. And we want to welcome you here with us, Anita.
Thank you, Tracey. I'm really pleased to be here.
I'm really overwhelmed with seeing all the places in the world you're doing your healing work. And I'll bring up a few. You've been volunteering in a jail where you work with incarcerated populations on healing. You're also on a stress project working with vets coming back from war with combat PTSD. You also have 2 private practices in 2 different locations in Maryland.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very full and fun life. I just love it. Doing the work that I do, using these energy techniques, frees up energy that allows me to do all of these wonderful things. And I am just thrilled to be here.
Wow. Well, tell us some of the techniques that you use.
Well, one of the techniques I use is called emotional freedom technique. And this technique uses the acupuncture meridian points, but without the needles. So it's called acupuncture for the emotions without needles.
So you mean that you actually tap on the same place as needles go?
Absolutely. And what we've found is that the tapping works just as well as the needles.
Wow, so it sounds like this is a technique that somebody's not going to be dependent on a practitioner for, that once they learn, this is almost a self-help technique.
Absolutely. In fact, it is. People are taught how to do the tapping on themselves, and then they can continue to use it every day of their life.
That sounds really, really powerful.
It is.
What would be the overall vision of the work that you do in our world?
Well, actually, the overall vision that I have is to create inner peace. It really has to come from inside each one of us. And when that happens, that inner peace just radiates out to the world, and the other people can learn to do this for themselves. And the first thing you know, we're going to have a lot more people feeling peaceful.
Wow, and then we'll have a peaceful world.
Absolutely, that's our vision.
So it sounds like inner world peace starts with inner peace.
Absolutely. It begins on the inside. In fact, we all have this gem inside that's gotten covered over, but it's like a rough diamond. And when we uncover this rough diamond with this emotional freedom technique, I know it looks rather strange to see people.
What does it look like?
Well, actually, it's tapping on energy points that are kind of funny looking, and you know, some people make fun of it, but when they experience the release of energy and the release of negative thoughts and increased calmness, they're willing to do it. In fact, you know, one of the populations that I thought would be most resistant were the people in prison, and in fact they just loved it. And what I learned was that they were no different from anybody else. And so it's a very freeing, peace-creating technique.
Well, what a gift that you do all this work, because we know that hurting people hurt people. So if they're hurting and they're hurting other people, then what's the best thing for them to go through but then through a healing experience where they can actually release that parts of themselves that's keeping them in this violent mode.
Absolutely.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you also work with a lot of vets.
Yes, I've been working with veterans who have what's called post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is a terribly upsetting and disruptive problem for veterans returning from war. And this technique releases that negative emotion and those disruptive behaviors so that they can reclaim the life that they've lost.
Wow, what a gift. They go overseas and sacrifice so much for our freedom and for our safety. And they come back harmed. They come back having survived lots of trauma, and to be able to use emotional freedom technique for that trauma just sounds wonderful.
It is. It's so heartwarming to see these people change and experience the freedom from these terrible emotions, these terrible fears.
Well, it would sure be great if we could get this into the military, so that what if the soldiers actually took this to war with them, and that they could heal themselves after coming in from a day on the battlefield? Would that be amazing?
Well, you know, Tracy, that's really possible. And it is something that I've been working on with some other people. And I think that that will be possible very soon.
Another thing that I've heard about your work is that you're an advocate for integrative medicine. What does that mean?
Well, thank you for asking. Integrative medicine is a field of medicine that uses best practices from the Western as well as non-Western cultural healthcare practices. And what we know about the ancient practices is that energy was a major part of healing. And in fact, NIH has accepted that energy medicine is a legitimate field of study. So this work that I'm talking about, energy psychology, is also becoming validated through research studies, especially with people who have serious trauma. And some interesting research on the horizon is looking at the effects of energy therapies on genes. And there is some research that is going to happen in San Francisco.
Wow.
Looking at the change in genes created by using energy techniques. And then another research project in the works is using MRIs to determine the effect of the tapping techniques. Now, we know that we want evidence-based techniques. We need evidence. And there's been quite a lot of energy research being done recently because we use energy to diagnose. You know, we have MRI machines, we've got CAT scans, PET scans.
But we just don't use it to treat, do we?
Exactly. In this country, we use it to diagnose. So if you can use it for diagnosis, why not use it for treatment?
Do you know, that reminds me, I read a study about this actually, where emotional freedom techniques actually decrease the level of cortisol in the system. Now, cortisol is the stress hormone that's caused when you're stressed and you need to fight, flight, or freeze. You need to get away from that tiger. And some cortisol is really healthy, but it seems like in our culture where we're living in sustained stress, cortisol is through the roof. And we know that cortisol creates inflammation in the body and actually increases pain. So people that already have physical issues have an increased sense of pain when they're stressed. And they're using this emotional freedom technique to bring down, reduce the cortisol levels, thus reducing pain. So they're actually taking less medications.
Absolutely. That is an excellent example of the research being done now using these energy techniques.
And then the stress project, what are the statistics you're getting on working with vets with PTSD?
Well, in the most recent study, there was an 86% drop in the post.
86?
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Wow.
So the people, and this was only after 6 sessions of 6 one-hour sessions. So this technique is phenomenal for the effect that it can have on healing.
We hope to see you with us, and we hope to continue to cultivate peace in the world by first cultivating inner peace, because our healing journey is not private, it's public. Whenever we heal, we affect everyone around us, our children, the children's children, and the children's future generations. And so our healing, this is a gift that we not only give ourselves, but that we give our family and our communities.
Absolutely. It's the most beautiful gift you can give yourself and everybody else. So we look forward to your joining us to experience the beauty, the fun, the freedom that we're experiencing.
So we'll be teaching you how to heal and create the life you've always desired. We hope to see you with us.
Thank you.